going on, guys? Welcome into the weekly Q&A here on the channel. Jarrett Bailey with you as always. Week 9 coming up. I'll have a preview show for that tonight with the always great Mike Tanier from The Messenger. So tune into that tonight at 8. You can watch it live here, or you can listen to it as a podcast when it's done, wherever you get your podcasts. So yeah, we'll just get into the questions that y'all left me throughout the week or the last couple of days. So the first one is rate the Leonard Williams trade. I liked it. I think it made sense for the Seahawks to do, especially. They needed somebody who could kind of be that interior disruptor, and Leonard Williams is certainly that. He had 6 pressures by himself against the Jets, which is tremendous. He's been fantastic all year, and you put him in a front 7 or a front 6, teams and nickel a lot more, with Jaron Reed, Boye Mafe, Draymond Jones, Bobby Wagner behind him. I think that's a tremendous unit. And it shows that Seattle's all in. This is an NFC where, you can make a run at a Super Bowl this year if you're a team like Detroit and Seattle, and the Seahawks recognize that, and they got better. Look at that roster right now and find a hole. I don't see one. Jamal Adams is playing really well this year. Obviously, Reek Woolen, Devin Witherspoon at that nickel spot as a rookie has been tremendous. Jackson Smith and Jigba is starting to come on at receiver. Kenneth Walker in the backfield. They're getting some of their starting offensive linemen back. So I love the move from Seattle. And then if you're the Giants, that just kind of signaled, we're 2-6. We're not going anywhere this year. I'm going to try to get as much draft capital as we can. I think that also signals they weren't planning on bringing Leonard Williams back, so they're just trying to get something for him. So I think it makes sense to do for both sides. And now we'll see what happens with the Giants, because I'm not entirely sure what's next for them. Let me check that. I know of a few things, at least if I'm betting. Daniel Jones isn't going to be back next year. They structured his contract where it won't cost them a ton of money to either waive or cut him in the offseason. So there's going to be a new quarterback. Brian Dable, I don't know. The Giants have been incredibly unstable when it comes to head coaches since Tom Coughlin, whether it was Pat Shurmur, Pat McAdoo, Joe Judge. And then, Dable came in, he had instant success and got the best out of a bad quarterback, and they got to the playoffs. They won a playoff game, and eventually they just ran into the Eagles, who outclassed them both times they played where the Eagles could be bothered to care. So I don't think Brian Dable will be gone. I think that he'll be able to bring in the guy that he wants at quarterback. Because we know that Dable's a smart guy. We can say all we want about his little freakouts and his rants and whatnot on the sideline, but he's shown that he knows what he's talking about. We know that he's one of the better just quarterback-friendly coaches in the league. So I think he'll have a lot of input on who comes in and who doesn't. But overall, I like the Leonard Williams trade for both sides. What changed in Broncos Nation? Can they, let's ride? I don't think anything changed per se. I still don't think that they're a great team. I think that they, this is a division opponent. They weren't going to lose to the Chiefs forever. I mean, credit to them. They played a really good game, but this doesn't automatically, to me, just oh man, Denver's a playoff team. I think that. Even in the game from a few weeks ago when they played the Chiefs on Thursday night, the Chiefs were able to, find Kelsey a lot, and he had a big game. But outside of that, the Broncos, they didn't give up a ton of points. It's just their offense couldn't do anything. And even that, the offense didn't look good. It didn't look great against the Chiefs this past Sunday. It was just, the Chiefs offense played bad. Mahomes didn't play well. They were at home. I think Mahomes was sick entering the game. And so, they played well. They got a win. They finally ended that ungodly streak of losing to the Chiefs. But that doesn't make them a playoff team all of a sudden, or make them some sort of great team, or one of the teams to watch out for in the AFC. I think that they got a win, good for them, but that doesn't change my mind about the Broncos. Week 9 matchups. are loaded with some matchups between Super Bowl competitors: Chiefs, Dolphins, Bills, Bengals, Eagles, Cowboys. What are your early leans in each of these? Chiefs for Chiefs, Dolphins. I don't think they're going to lose back-to-back games. I don't think Mahomes has ever lost back-to-back games. I would have to look at that, but if I'm a betting man, I don't think he ever has. Um, and yeah, like we've talked about it all year with Miami. Can they beat a good team? Can they beat a good defense? They don't have this game's being played in Germany, so they don't have the benefit of it being a home field advantage of being in Miami. Nor do the Chiefs have one for being an Arrowhead. But the Chiefs' defense is really good. I don't think I'd say it would be the best overall defense that the Dolphins have played all year, even when the Bills are completely healthy. I just think right now, like this is the best defense that the Chiefs have had since they've had Mahomes. And you just look at all the talent that they have. I think that this is the best defense that the Dolphins have faced so far this year. And I just, until they show me that they can beat a high caliber team, that's not to say that they aren't good. I don't want to paint it like that. But right now, they've beaten up on a lot of bad teams. And it's not like they played horribly against Philadelphia. They didn't. They were in it until Tua threw a late interception on a bad interception, and then Philadelphia just ran it down their throats, and that's what led to them winning. Now that Jalen Ramsey's here, which is something that they hadn't had until last week, so we'll see how much that plays a factor. He already has an interception and has made his presence known. But I lean Chiefs in that. Bills Bengals. I don't know, man. I know I'm not betting that game, at least not the spread or anything. I'll bet player props and whatnot for that game, but I'm not touching the spread, money line, who I think is going to win, not touching it because I really don't know. Because the Bills, they show up for big games, but they play down when they face lesser opponents. Even this past Thursday night, like that game was well in hand until that really long drive for the Buccaneers where the Bills keep them on the field multiple times with penalties. The Buccaneers score, and they get the ball back late in the game and are, if Chris Godwin turns around, they lose that game. And again, they have no business losing. But for the big games, they show up. And I think that with the obvious connections from last year, what happened, everybody knows what happened on that field the last time these two teams played. I think that's going to be a big, how do I want to say this? That's going to be on the minds of the Bills. And I think that they're going to be playing extra. I think they're going to have extra motivation because of that. So if I had to pick one, I'd lean Bills a little bit, but it's a 51-49. It's not like 60-40, 70-30. Like it's a jump ball when it comes to those two teams. Because right now Cincinnati's playing extremely well. After Burrow got right, I think we're seeing the Bengals look like themselves again. He just had a game against the 49ers, 28 of 32, 3 touchdowns, 4 incompletions, 3 touchdowns. So Burrow looks good. The defense looks fantastic. Like you look, Sam Hubbard, Trey Hendrickson, Jermaine Pratt, DJ Reader, Mike Hilton, Logan Wilson had a pick. Like it's the most underrated unit in all of football is the Bengals defense because everybody focuses on Burrow and Chase and Higgins and Mixon, which they should. I mean, they're great players, but the Bengals defense, man, it is so good. It'll be a good game. If both teams play their absolute best, then that will be a very worthy Sunday night game. And I'm very much looking forward to seeing it. All right. What are your thoughts on Tyson Bagent and his future in Chicago? I like Tyson Bagent. I don't know if he has, the future of like an NFL starter, but a high quality backup where he can have an 8-year career. I think that he can do that. Had a little bit of a rough game against the Chargers. We're going to see him again Sunday against New Orleans, who has been an up and down team in their own right. The Bears just acquired Montez Sweat. We'll see how much that helps their pass rush, which is something that has needed a lot of help. But in terms of Bagent, like I was aware of him a little bit, like during the offseason. He went to a school that played in the PSAC, Pennsylvania State Athletic Conference, which is the same conference that my alma mater plays in. I went to Slippery Rock. He went to Shepherd. So I was a little bit aware of him already. Shepard knocked Slippery Rock out of the D2 playoffs. So like I was a little bit aware of who he was, and then saw him in Mobile, saw him at the combine. And he was in Mobile during the Senior Bowl. He played for the team that Luke Getsy was the coach of. So there was some pre-existing relationship there, which led to him going to Chicago. And obviously played really well against the Raiders, which, by the way, we'll get into the Raiders. If not during the Q&A, I don't know if anybody asked any questions about the Raiders, but I'll touch on it a little bit. So yeah, I think that he can have like a Chase Daniel type career where he seems like a really smart guy. The locker room seems to really like him. And I think he can be a guy that has a really nice career as a backup or a bridge starter, one of the, like a Taylor Heineke, like what he's been so far. I think he can be someone like that. And I'm hoping for the best for him. We'll see how he plays this Sunday against New Orleans. Should the Vikings trade for a quarterback? Well, they did. And I'll give my opinion on this. I think it was dumb. Why are you giving draft capital? If you're the Vikings, and I wrote my piece for USA Today on the winners and losers of the trade deadline, and the Vikings are one of my losers. Because if you're the Vikings, why are you trading for anybody right now? Because you're not winning anything without Kirk Cousins. What is Josh Dobbs doing for you? He's getting you to, 6 wins instead of you staying at 4? You're better off staying at 4. And they should have traded Danielle Hunter and got some more draft capital in return, because this team isn't going anywhere. I think they should have just stuck with Jarrett Hall. They should have stunk for the rest of this year. They trade away Danielle Hunter, go into this offseason knowing that you're going to have a new quarterback. You're going to have a lot of cap space. Pay Justin Jefferson, make sure he's taken care of, and then try to find a new franchise quarterback in the draft. Trading for Josh Dobbs does nothing. Nothing at all. You're not winning a Super Bowl with Josh Dobbs. And if you're not going to win a Super Bowl, why make that move? There's no reason to make that move whatsoever. I thought it was a dumb move. So no, I think that they should have just stuck it out with Jarrett Hall, been awful for the rest of the year, traded away Danielle Hunter before the deadline, made sure they had a boatload of money in the offseason so they could pay Justin Jefferson, and then try to get a Drake May, or God willing, if they were able to get Caleb Williams, something of that sort. There was no reason to make this trade because he's not taking you anywhere. He's making you slightly less bad. Like your cap with Josh Dobbs is being mediocre. And that's the worst place you can be, especially for a Vikings team who knows they're going to need a quarterback next year. So I thought it was dumb. All right, what quarterback injury this week had the largest impact on the playoff race? Kirk Cousins, Tyrod Taylor, Matthew Stafford, Kenny Pickett, Desmond Ridder. It's Kirk. Like, the Vikings were 4-4 because of Kirk Cousins. He was on pace for almost 5,000 yards and 38 touchdowns, which would have been the best year of his career. He was playing fantastic football. And the only reason that they were in games or winning games was because of him. So the fact that he's gone, and all the reasons I just pointed out, there's no reason why they should have made any sort of moves of bringing anybody in. They should have sent out Danielle Hunter. They should have got as much draft capital as they could and planned for the future. Because I don't think he's going to. I don't see a reason why Kirk Cousins goes back to Minnesota. I see why he would want to. I mean, he likes it there, and it would make sense for him to stay there. But for the Vikings, it doesn't make sense, because for as good as Kirk is, I think we only have, how much good football does he have left in him? And are you going to invest big money into that? Or are you going to plan for a long-term future? Because again, you got to pay Justin Jefferson. And you got to still find pieces on defense. And it just makes sense as to why Kirk Cousins would be playing somewhere else next year rather than Minnesota. So I think that Kirk is by far the one that had the biggest impact. Because Tyrod Taylor, the Giants weren't making the playoffs anyway. They're a bad football team. Matthew Stafford, sure. But again, the Rams are a limited team anyway, too, right now, because right now they're 3-5. So it's not as if they're. And Stafford has been kind of up and down this year, too. Like, he didn't have a great game against Dallas, didn't have a great game against Pittsburgh. Even in week 1, like, he threw for a bunch of yards, but he's not finding the end zone a lot there. He's just been okay. Kenny Pickett, the Steelers are a bad team. Don't let the record fool you. They are. So here's a little tidbit on the Steelers. Right now, they are 55 games straight without 400 yards of total offense. That's the second longest streak in NFL history. And in the last 2 seasons, they are 2-8 when their opponents score more than 20 points. And in their 2 wins, which was last year, week 1 against Cincinnati, they had 1 defensive score. And then week 2 of this year against Cleveland on Monday night, their defense had more points than their offense. So their offense stinks. Kenny Pickett's not good. They're 4-3 right now. They are, I don't know if we can do this study or not, but let's look at the history of 4-3 teams. They might be the worst team above 500 at this point in NFL history. They are so bad, man. So bad. And Desmond Ridder, he's not good either. He's worse than Kenny Pickett. You know what? Is he? That'd be a good poll question. Because I don't watch every down of the Falcons, so I'm not going to pretend to be like a full blown expert on Desmond Ridder. But from what I have seen of Desmond Ridder, he's not good. So I don't know if Kenny Pickett and Desmond Ridder would switch places, if Pittsburgh would be better off, or if Atlanta would be better off. But I think they're both on pretty level playing fields of bad. And I think Taylor Heineke's the better quarterback right now, anyway. So I think if anything, going to Taylor Heineke is better for Atlanta and helps them more than Desmond Ridder because he's not good. So yeah, Kirk Cousins is the easy answer there. In terms of the Raiders, I said I would talk about that. I'll touch on it a little bit right now before we end the Q&A because I'm going to talk about it tonight with Tanir on the Week 9 preview show. This is the second time that Josh McDaniels parlayed riding shotgun in a Rolls Royce, the Rolls Royce being Tom Brady, that he parlayed that into a head coaching gig. He did it once in Denver, and it ended badly. He did it again and got the gig with the Raiders after being with Tom and winning more Super Bowls, and then Tom leaves, and he has one weirdly successful year with Mac Jones where they played a lot of injured teams and played in a lot of weird conditions that kind of elevated their win-loss record. And then they got boat raced in the playoffs the second they played a Buffalo team that was at full strength, and it wasn't a wind tunnel that they played in. So that was kind of their ceiling with Mac Jones. And then Josh McDaniels gets the head coaching gig in Las Vegas. They have a bad year last year. Derek Carr becomes a scapegoat for that. They trade him, or they get rid of him. Now, Josh McDaniels was never a good head coach. And there was zero reason why he should have gotten the gig in the first place. And the Raiders continue to be the worst organization in football when it comes to finding head coaches. They gave John Gruden a ton of money, and once he resigned, he's still owed money, the way that Josh McDaniels is still owed money. So now Mark Davis is paying 2 head coaches that aren't there. Lack of stability, and I don't even know how to best describe Mark Davis, and he's very impulsive. Like, none of these moves made sense. And not only is McDaniels out, offensive coordinator Michael Lombardi's out, general manager Dave Ziegler's out, so they're really starting anew. Now, if they were going to do that, I don't know why they don't trade Devontae Adams before the deadline. Perhaps to see just how good Aiden O'Connell is because he's a starter now. So I guess I can kind of see the reasoning behind that. You want to see how, make sure you give your quarterback all the resources you can to see how good that they can be. But no, this is a team. This isn't anything new for the Raiders. And I will see how the rest of the year goes. I think Antonio Pierce is there, their interim head coach. And now we'll see how good Aiden O'Connell is, what the defense can do. And I don't know who do they play this week. Because like clockwork, they are going to cover the spread of whomever they play. I would bet my life on it. It always happens with these interim head coaches. When they come in, teams just play tougher. Happened last year when Steve Wilkes took over for Carolina. They beat the Buccaneers with P.J. Walker. The Raiders this week, are they on a bye? No. They play the Giants. I bet you they win that game. Bet you they win that game. It's a home game against a really bad Giants offense. I will bet you they win that game. They're 1.5 favorites right now. I don't know if that's going to change, but I bet you they win that game. But that is it for the Q&A. Thank you to everybody who keeps sending in questions. If you want to send in questions, I usually do those on Threads because I get pretty good interaction on Threads. But if you want to send in questions for this, if you like this, you can send me questions at Twitter, on Twitter, just tweet them at me. Or Threads, like I said. Follow me on Threads at RealJarrettBailey. And yeah, I put out a post like every Monday or so, Sunday or Monday, and just, like a roll call for questions, and then we'll do this. So that's how this is going to work. So thanks for tuning into the Q&A. Like I said, tune in tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern time. Me and Mike Tanier on the Pump Fake, previewing Week 9, talking about the Raiders and going more in depth on that conversation and the weekend ahead. So appreciate y'all for tuning in. I'll see you later this evening on the Pump Fake.